You are suspended in the dark, wrapped in a tough, leathery pouch, what mariners call a mermaid's purse. You are anchored to a kelp stalk, rocking with the surge of the ocean. You are alone, your mother has vanished. Before you can even swim, you face a gauntlet. You are a completely stationary target. The leathery casing shields you from small nibblers, but it cannot stop a hungry elephant snail from rasping a hole through the sheath, or a larger fish from swallowing you whole. Worse, you are at the mercy of the elements. A heavy storm can rip your anchor from the kelp, tossing your capsule onto a beach to dry out and die before you ever breathe water. You aren't a mammal. There is no placenta. Instead, you survive on a nutrient-rich yolk sac, growing rows of teeth before your skeleton is even fully formed. And that skeleton isn't made of bone. It's composed entirely of cartilage, the same flexible material found in a human nose and ears, making you lighter, more agile, and built for speed. Months pass. At last, you bite your way free from the egg case. The instant you enter the open ocean, you aren't a helpless newborn. You're already a perfectly equipped predator, a miniature hunter with every instinct you need to survive. But the ocean you've just entered was never meant to be easy. It's a battlefield, and almost everything around you is trying to make sure you never reach adulthood. As you mature from a vulnerable pup into an apex predator, your senses evolve into one of the most sophisticated detection systems on Earth, the lateral line. A network of fluid-filled canals runs along both sides of your body, packed with microscopic sensory cells called neuromasts. They detect the slightest disturbances in the surrounding water, pressure waves, vibrations, and turbulence. A single tail flick from a struggling fish sends a signal through the water, allowing you to sense movement long before you can see it, even in darkness or murky seas. The Ampullae of Lorenzini. Scattered across your snout are hundreds of tiny jelly-filled pores connected to specialized electroreceptors. They detect the faint electrical fields produced by living animals. Every heartbeat, every muscle contraction, every nerve impulse generates a tiny electrical signal. Even prey completely buried beneath the sand cannot hide. Their own biology gives away their position, guiding you to a target that remains invisible to every other sense. Yet, despite being perfectly engineered, your traits make you incredibly fragile to modern threats. Sharks are K-strategists. This is an ecological classification, meaning you grow very slowly. You take a decade or more to reach sexual maturity and produce only a few pups at a time. This strategy worked for millions of years because adult sharks had few natural predators. Humans changed the equation. When you're caught for the fin trade or die as bycatch in commercial fishing gear, your population cannot replace those losses in a single breeding season. Each missing adult represents years, sometimes decades, of growth, survival, and future reproduction. Recovery isn't measured in months. It's measured in decades. And then, tomorrow arrives. Every shark disappears. With sharks instantly erased from the matrix, the oceans don't celebrate. They panic. Sharks are apex predators, occupying the absolute top tier of the marine trophic pyramid. Their main job isn't actually to kill everything, it's to keep the layer directly beneath them in check. Without sharks, we trigger a massive ecological disaster known as a trophic cascade. Without you patrolling the reefs, the balance of the food web begins to unravel. Mid-level predators, rays, groupers, and octopuses are no longer kept in check. Freed from the constant risk of becoming prey, their populations surge. Schools of rays sweep across the seafloor in overwhelming numbers, crushing scallops, clams, oysters, and crabs with powerful jaws. Shellfish beds that once took years to develop are stripped bare in a matter of months. The effects reach far beyond the reef. Commercial shell fisheries collapse as harvestable shellfish disappear faster than they can reproduce. An ecosystem that had remained stable for millions of years tips into imbalance, and the economic consequences ripple through coastal communities around the world. Further out in the open ocean and around coral reefs, a darker mechanism takes hold. Sharks act as the ocean's janitors by targeting the sick, old, and slow prey. You keep gene pools healthy and prevent the spread of infectious diseases. Without you, disease tears through schools of fish. Worse, the herbivorous fish, like parrotfish, that eat algae off the coral reefs have been completely wiped out by the overpopulated mid-tier predators. Algae grows unchecked, suffocating the living coral. The reefs die, turning into ghostly, brittle deserts. Because reefs act as critical nurseries for 25% of all marine life, the entire coastal ecosystem goes quiet. The final consequences are measured not in fish, but in carbon. The health of the ocean is deeply tied to blue carbon sequestration, the way marine ecosystems trap and store carbon dioxide. When sharks are around, they scare sea turtles and dugongs away from overgrazing on seagrass meadows. This behavioral control is called a fear landscape. Without that fear, these herbivores eat the seagrass down to the roots. Seagrass meadows store carbon up to 40 times faster than terrestrial rainforests. As they die off, billions of tons of trapped carbon are released back into the water and atmosphere, accelerating global climate shift. The ocean, which provides every second breath of oxygen you take on land, begins to choke. You started as a tiny egg in a quiet kelp forest. Your absence ends with a planet out of breath.